A tale about the boy who went forth to learn what fear was. A father had two sons. The older was smart and sensible and could cope in any situation, while the younger was stupid and could neither learn nor understand anything. Whenever people encountered him, they said, "He'll always be a burden to his father." If there were things to be done, the older son was always the one who had to take care of them. Yet if the father asked the older son to fetch something toward evening or during the night, and if that meant he would have to pass through the churchyard or some other scary place, he would answer, "Oh no, father, I won't go there. It gives me the creeps." Indeed, he was afraid. Sometimes stories that would send shivers up your spine were told by their fireside at night, and the listeners would say, "Oh, it gives me the creeps." Often the younger son would be sitting in the corner and listening, but he never understood what they meant. They're always saying, "It gives me the creeps. It gives me the creeps." But it doesn't give me the creeps. It's probably some kind of a trick that I don't understand. One day, his father happened to say to him, "Listen, you over there in the corner, you're getting too big and strong. It's time you learned how to earn your living. Look how hard your brother works, while you're just a hopeless case." "Oh, no, father," he responded. "I'd gladly learn something. If possible, I'd like to learn how to get the creeps. That's something I know nothing about." When the older son heard that, he laughed and thought to himself, "Dear Lord, my brother's really a dumbbell. He'll never amount to anything. You've got to start young to get anywhere." The father sighed and answered, "You're sure to learn all about getting the creeps in due time, but it won't help you earn a living." Shortly after this, the sexton came to the house for a visit, and the father complained about his younger son, that he was incapable of doing anything, much less learning and knowing anything. "Just think, when I asked him what he wanted to do to earn a living, he actually said he wanted to learn how to get the creeps." "If that's all he wants," the sexton replied, "he can learn it at my place. Just hand him over to me, and I'll smooth over his rough edges." The father was pleased to do this because he thought, "The boy needs some shaping up." So the sexton took him to his house, where the boy was assigned the task of ringing the church bell. After a few days had passed, the sexton woke him at midnight and told him to get up, climb the church steeple, and ring the bell. "Now you'll learn what the creeps are," the sexton thought, and secretly went up ahead of him. When the boy reached the top and turned around to grab hold of the bell rope, he saw a white figure standing on the stairs across from the sound hole. "Who's there?" he cried out, but the figure did not answer, nor did it move an inch. "Answer me," the boy shouted, "or get out of here. You've no business being here at night." However, the sexton did not move, for he wanted to make the boy think he was a ghost. The boy shouted a second time, "What do you want? If you're an honest man, say something, or I'll throw you down the stairs." "He really can't be as mean as that," the sexton thought. "Uh-oh, is this getting pretty dark or what?" And he kept still, standing there as if he were made of stone. The boy shouted at him a third time, and when that did not help, he lunged at the ghost and pushed him down the stairs. The ghost fell 10 steps and lay in a corner. The boy then rang the bell, went home, got into bed without saying a word, and fell asleep. The sexton's wife waited for her husband for a long time, but he failed to return. Finally, she became anxious, woke the boy, and asked, "Do you know where my husband is? He climbed the steeple ahead of you." "No," replied the boy, "but someone was standing across from the sound hole. When he refused to answer me or go away, I thought he was some sort of scoundrel and pushed him down the stairs. Why don't you go and see if it wasn't him? I'd feel sorry if it was." The wife ran off and found her husband, who was lying in a corner and moaning because of a broken leg. I was worried he died. She carried him down the stairs and then rushed off to the boy's father, screaming as she went. "Your boy has caused a terrible accident," she cried. "He threw my husband down the stairs and made him break a leg. Get that good-for-nothing out of our house." The father was mortified and ran straight to the sexton's house, where he began scolding the boy. "What kind of godless tricks have you been playing? The devil must have put you up to it." "Father," he replied, "just listen to me. I'm completely innocent." He was standing there in the dark like someone who had evil designs. I didn't know who he was and warned him 3 times to say something or go away. Ah, said the father, you'll never be anything but trouble for me. Get out of my sight. I don't want to see you any more. All right, father, gladly. Just give me until daylight and I'll go away and learn how to get the creeps. Get the creeps. Then I'll know a trick or two and be able to learn a living. Okay, did I say that right? Able to earn a living. Learn what you want, the father said. It's all the same to me. Here's 50 tailors. Take them and go out into the wide world. But don't tell anyone where you come from or who your father is, because I'm ashamed of you. Yes, father, as you wish. If that's all you desire, I can easily bear that in mind. At daybreak, the boy put the 50 tailors in his pocket, went out on the large highway, and kept saying to himself, if I could only get the creeps, if I could only get the creeps. As the boy was talking to himself, a man came along and overheard him. When they had gone some distance together, they caught sight of the gallows, and the man said to him, you see the tree over there? That's where 7 men were wedded to the rope maker's daughter. Now they're learning how to fly. Sit down beneath the tree and wait till night comes. Then you'll certainly learn how to get the creeps. If that's all it takes, the boy responded, I can do it with ease. And if I learn how to get the creeps as quickly as that, you shall have my 50 tailors. Just come back here tomorrow morning. The boy went to the gallows, sat down beneath it, and waited until evening came. Since he was cold, he made a fire. Nevertheless, at midnight, the wind became colder, and he could not get warm in spite of the fire. When the wind knocked the hanged men against each other, against each other, and they swung back and forth, he thought, if you're freezing down here by the fire, they must be really cold and shivering up there. Since he felt sorry for them, he took a ladder, climbed up, untied one hanged man after the other, and hauled all 7 down to the ground. All down to the ground. Then he stirred the fire, blew on it, and set them all around it, so they might warm themselves. However, they sat there without moving, and their clothes caught on fire. Be careful, he said, otherwise I'll hang you all back up there. The dead men did not hear. Indeed, they just remained silent and let their rags continue to burn. Then the boy became angry and said, if you won't, this is crazy. If you won't take care, I can't help you, and I surely won't let you burn me. So he hung them up again, all in a row, sat down by his fire, and fell asleep. Next morning, the man came and wanted his 50 tailors. Well, he said, now you know what the creeps are. No, answered the boy. How should I know? Those men up there didn't open their mouths. They're so stupid, they let the few old rags they're wearing get burned. The man realized he would never get the 50 tailors that day, so he went off saying, never in my life have I met anyone like that. The boy also went his way, and once again he began talking to himself. Oh, if I could only get the creeps! If I could only get the creeps! A carter who was walking behind him overheard him and asked, who are you? I don't know, answered the boy. Where do you come from? The carter continued questioning him. I don't know. Who's your father? I'm not allowed to tell. What's that you're always mumbling to yourself? Oh, the boy responded, I want to get the creeps, but nobody can teach me how. Stop your foolish talk, said the carter. Come along with me, and I'll see if I can find a place for you to stay. The boy went with the carter. I don't know any of these words. Sextant, carter, what? I need to look it up. Sextant sounds like a teacher. This is like all old English. Define. I mean, we know that it's also like a tool to figure out distance back in the day, right? A sexton is a person who looks after a church and churchyard, sometimes acting as a bell ringer, formerly as a grave digger. Oh my. And then what's a carter? Carter. A person who drives a cart. A carter is someone who drives a cart or coach or a stable for cart horses. The name may also refer to someone who transports goods by cart or wagon. It is an occupational name of Irish, Scottish, and English origin and comes from the Celtic word caird, which means cart. Okay, there you go. The boy went with the carter, and in the evening they reached an inn where they intended to spend the night. As they entered the main room, the boy spoke loudly once more. If I could only get the creeps! If I could only get the creeps! The innkeeper heard this and laughed. If that's what you desire, he remarked, there'll be ample opportunity for you to get it here. Oh, be quiet, the innkeeper's wife said. There have already been enough foolish fellows who've lost their lives. It would be a mighty shame if that boy with such pretty eyes never saw the light of day again. But the boy said, it doesn't matter how hard it may be. I want to get the creeps. That's why I left home. He kept bothering the innkeeper until the man told him about the haunted castle nearby where one could really learn how to get the creeps. All he had to do was to spend 3 nights in it. The king had promised his daughter to anyone who would undertake the venture, and she was the most beautiful maiden under the sun. There were also great treasures in the castle guarded by evil spirits. Once the treasures were set free, they would be enough to make a poor man rich. Many men had already gone into the castle, but none had ever come out again. The next morning, the boy appeared before the king and said, if I may have your permission, I'd like to spend 3 nights in the haunted castle. The king looked at him and found the boy to his liking, so he said, you may request 3 things to take with you into the castle, but they must be lifeless objects. Well then, he answered, I'd like to have a fire, a lathe, and a carpenter's bench with a knife. And what is a lathe? Let's look that up. Lathe. A lathe. A machine for shaping wood, metal, or other material by means of a rotating drive, which turns the piece by working on against changeable cutting tools. It is a very big tool, actually. Here you go. Okay. But I don't know how a lathe looked like back then. It couldn't have been this sophisticated. A lathe. He wanted a lathe. Okay. The king had these things carried into the castle for him during the day. Just before nightfall, the boy himself went up to the castle, made a bright fire in one of the rooms. You can make a fire in a room, I guess. Set up the carpenter's bench with a knife next to it, and sat down on the lathe. If I could only get the creeps, he said, but I don't think I'll learn it here either. Toward midnight, he wanted to stir the fire again. But just as he was blowing it, he suddenly heard a scream coming from a corner. Meow, meow, we're freezing. You fools, he cried out. What are you screaming for? If you're freezing, come sit down by the fire and warm yourselves. No sooner had he said that than 2 big black cats came over with a tremendous leap, sat down beside him, and glared ferociously at him with their fiery eyes. After a while, when they had warmed themselves, they said, Comrade, let's play a round of cards. Why not, he responded, but first show me your paws. They stretched out their claws. My goodness, he said, what long nails you have. Wait, I've got to give them a good clipping. Upon saying that, he grabbed them by the scruffs of their necks. But they sounded huge. Lifted them onto the carpenter's bench, and fastened their paws in a vise. I was keeping a sharp eye on you 2, he said, and now I've lost my desire to play cards. Then he beat them to death and threw them into the water. Oh my, I gotta stop reading these fairy tales. They're very dark. But after he had put an end to those 2 and was about to sit down at his fire again, black cats and black dogs on glowing chains came out of all the nooks and crannies. And they kept coming and coming, so it was impossible for him to flee. They made a gruesome noise. I don't don't like it. I'm getting the creeps. He started swinging the knife. I am skipping some parts. Oh my, oh my. The bed is moving now. The bed sped up as though it were being drawn by 6 horses. It rolled through the doorways and up and down stairs. Then all of a sudden, bing, bang. It turned upside down and lay on top of him like a mountain. Now he flung the blankets and pillows in the air, climbed out, and said, "Now anyone else who wants a ride can have one." I don't really like this story anymore. Just seems a little too dark for me. I don't like haunted stuff. I don't like horror. It's not really horror, but oh my, oh my. Now, I'll just read the very last part. Yeah, the very last part. He goes through a lot of crazy adventures in the castle. He does get the gold, okay? Now the gold was brought up from the cellar and the wedding was celebrated. The boy loved his wife dearly and was very happy, but he still kept saying, "If I could only get the creeps, if I could only get the creeps." After a while, his wife became annoyed by that. Oh, so he never got the creeps still, but he does at the end. But her chambermaid said, "Don't worry, I'll make sure he gets to know what the creeps are." She went out to a brook that ran through the garden and fetched a bucket full of minnows. That night, when the young king was sleeping, his wife pulled the covers off him and poured the bucket full of cold water and minnows on him. Then the little fish began flapping all over him, causing him to wake up and exclaim, "Oh, I've got the creeps, I've got the creeps. Now I know, dear wife, just what the creeps are." Okay, wah wah. I don't know why that would scare him, considering all the crazy stuff he went through in the castle. I see the word monster. I see the boy grabbed an axe. All kinds of stuff. Well, well. This is why I marked it. This is not for children. Not for children. Creepy stories. Of course, some children can handle it, but yes. I needed to pick something more positive and friendly, I think. Okay. See you next time.